While Allied soldiers feared the terrifying rate of fire of German machine guns in World War II, the Germans, in turn, dreaded the sheer destructive power of the American M2 Browning and its .50 BMG cartridge. After all, it didn't earn nicknames like Meat Chopper for nothing. But behind that reputation lies a darker and more brutal truth, because once someone was hit by such a round, the result was beyond gruesome. So, let's go back to where it all began, to understand how and why the weapon that would become the M2 was born. During World War I, the importance of effective machine guns became undeniable. But back then, these guns used the same ammunition as infantry rifles. As new machines of war appeared, armored vehicles, tanks, and planes, it became clear that something far more powerful was needed. General John Pershing specifically demanded a machine gun that could destroy these new threats more effectively than the existing .30 caliber guns. That request went to John Browning, America's legendary firearms designer. He was tasked with creating a weapon that fired a half-inch round at a velocity exceeding 2,700 feet per second, a huge leap beyond anything he had ever built. Browning took his already dependable M1917.30 caliber water-cooled gun and scaled it up to fire a much larger cartridge. That cartridge was a scaled-up .30-06, redesigned to be rimless for smoother feeding and inspired partly by the captured German 13.2mm anti-tank rifle round. It became the .50 BMG, 12.7 by 99 millimeters, a round destined to change warfare forever. After years of trials, the first prototype entered production as the M1921, a water-cooled heavy machine gun intended mainly for anti-aircraft use. But at first, things didn't look promising. The weapon was far too heavy for infantry to carry, weighing around 120 pounds in the water-cooled version or 84 pounds for the air-cooled model, plus another 44 pounds for the tripod. A full setup weighed between 130 and 170 pounds, not counting the heavy ammunition. The recoil was fierce, making it hard to control, and the gun's single-side feed limited its use in vehicles or aircraft. For a while, its only real purpose was as a coastal anti-aircraft gun. When John Browning passed away in 1926, development continued. His design was refined, internal components were modified so the gun could feed from either side, simply by changing the top cover. A universal receiver was also developed to allow either a water-cooled, heavy air-cooled, or light air-cooled barrel. Now the concept was beginning to shine. With further improvements, it was designated the M2 Browning. While other nations shifted toward heavier 20mm or 30mm cannons, the Americans believed the high-velocity .50 caliber would remain versatile and effective, and they were right. The stage was set for the M2 to prove itself as the next great weapon of war. When World War II erupted, the United States already had M2s serving in nearly every role, mounted on aircraft, vehicles, ships, and, of course, on tripods for infantry support. The gun's effectiveness was unmatched. In aircraft, lighter barrels and increased rates of fire, up to 1,200 rounds per minute, made it a devastating tool for short, deadly bursts. Iconic aircraft like the B-17 Flying Fortress carried up to 13 M2s in multiple turrets. The P-47 Thunderbolt had 8, and the Douglas A-26 Invader carried an astonishing 18. With the perfect balance of power and fire rate, these weapons tore through enemy fighters, bombers, and even tanks from above. By 1945, millions of M2s had been produced, making it the most manufactured machine gun in history. German soldiers quickly learned to fear it. Every tank, truck, and aircraft, the Allies had seemed to carry at least 1.50 caliber. Low-flying German aircraft, like the Stuka dive bombers, faced deadly walls of 50 caliber fire from all directions. The M2's short recoil operation was part of its genius. When fired, the barrel and bolt moved backward together, keeping the case supported under high pressure. After about 10 millimeters, the barrel stopped, and the bolt continued rearward, ejecting the spent case and loading the next round, ready to fire again instantly. Now, imagine being on the receiving end of that. German troops loathed the 50 not just for its power, but for what it represented. America's overwhelming firepower. Unlike Germany, the United States never ran short on ammunition, and the battlefield often echoed with the terrifying thunder of 50 caliber bursts. Compared to the 8mm Mauser fired by the MG-42, the .50 BMG delivered 5 to 10 times more energy. Brick walls, sandbags, even light armor offered little protection. Concentrated fire could collapse a wall or tear through bunkers. The .50 could even disable tank optics, jam turrets, or destroy lightly armored vehicles entirely. The myths surrounding the 50's supposed ban under the Geneva Convention were false, but its horrific effects were not exaggerated. A single hit could destroy a limb or end a life instantly. The Germans had nothing quite like it. Their MG-42 was fast and efficient, but its rounds simply couldn't match the punch of the Browning's Big 50. They respected it so much, in fact, that they sometimes mounted captured M2s on U-boats for anti-aircraft defense, even manufacturing .50 BMG ammunition of their own. The .50 BMG cartridge itself came in several types: standard full metal jacket, armor-piercing, incendiary, and armor-piercing incendiary tracer combinations. Tracer rounds every fifth bullet allowed gunners to see where their rounds landed, vital for anti-aircraft or long-range fire. Effective beyond 2 kilometers, it was both powerful and precise. Later, new types emerged: the Raufoss multi-purpose round, combining armor-piercing, explosive, and incendiary effects in a single shot, and the SLAP, saboted light armor penetrator, which used a tungsten subcaliber core for extreme penetration. The M2's accuracy and range even inspired sniper applications. The legendary Carlos Hathcock in Vietnam mounted a scope on an M2 and made record-breaking long-range kills, proving how capable the .50 BMG truly was. His innovation eventually led to the creation of the M82 Barrett anti-materiel rifle, built around the same cartridge. And when one M2 wasn't enough, engineers built the quad .50, 4 M2s mounted together on a single platform known as the M45 Maxim mount. Originally designed to defend against low-flying aircraft, it fired about 40 rounds per second. Later in the war, these mounts were turned against ground targets, unleashing devastating firepower that could obliterate anything in their path. The quad .50 lived on through Korea and Vietnam, even mounted on trucks to protect convoys from ambushes. But being a .50 caliber gunner came with risks. The weapon's thunderous sound and bright muzzle flashes quickly gave away positions. Many early gunners were fully exposed, with little to no shielding. It wasn't until Vietnam that armored shields became standard, and even later, remote weapon stations allowed soldiers to fire from inside their vehicles using cameras and joysticks, keeping them safe while maintaining full control. From its rough beginnings to its legendary status, the M2 Browning has become one of the most successful weapons ever made. Over a century later, it's still in active service, barely changed at its core. The modern M2A1 version adds a quick-change barrel, flash suppressor, and manual safety. But the soul of Browning's design remains untouched. It's incredible to think that this weapon, born from World War I, continues to dominate modern battlefields. A true testament to engineering genius, timeless design, and sheer firepower. And if you've enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most iconic weapons, make sure to follow, leave a comment, and stay tuned, because there's always another story locked and loaded, waiting to be told.